All right, let's dive right into the historian Josephus and pull apart a really intense moment of political drama in ancient Judea. This is a story all about a power struggle between a king who's losing his grip and a governor who is, well, dangerously ambitious. And you know what? It all kicks off with one single paranoid question.
So this is the question, right? The one that sets everything off. It's whispered into the ear of King Hyrcanus by his own advisors. And it's basically a little spark of paranoia, designed to just ignite a whole fire. And boy, did it work. This one question forced a showdown that would totally change the course of Judean history.
So, who's this guy causing all the anxiety? He's a young governor of Galilee named Herod, and he'd become a bit of a local hero, honestly, celebrated for just crushing the bandit problem in the area. But his success, the fact that he was so good at his job, well, that was seen as a threat. In the royal court, all that admiration started to curdle into this really dangerous, corrosive envy. And this contrast right here, it's the key to the whole conflict. On one side, you have Hyrcanus. He's got the crown, the official title of king, but Josephus paints him as inactive, kind of a figurehead. And then there's Herod. He's the man of action. He's the one actually getting things done. And people, and maybe more importantly, Rome's local reps, they were starting to notice. This created a super unstable balance of power.
So the king's advisors, they see an opening. Herod's swift justice against this bandit Hezekias was popular, sure, but it was also technically illegal. See, he acted without getting the king's okay, and this is the big one, without a formal trial by the Sanhedrin. That's Judea's high court. So they frame his big victory as this dangerous power grab, painting him as a guy who thinks he's above the law.
Pushed by his court, King Hyrcanus just couldn't ignore what looked like a direct challenge anymore. His authority was already shaky, and now it was really on the line. So he summons Herod to Jerusalem to face the Sanhedrin and stand trial for capital crimes. This was supposed to be the moment the king finally put his ambitious governor back in his place. And you gotta understand, this church was serious. It wasn't just about stepping on the king's toes. It hit on a fundamental principle of Jewish law. You couldn't just execute somebody. There had to be a formal condemnation from a court. Herod was basically being accused of being judge, jury, and executioner, and those were powers he simply did not have. Herod's arrival in Jerusalem is just a masterclass in political theater. He obeys the summons, yeah, but he doesn't show up alone. He brings a bodyguard of soldiers with him. Not a full army, but just enough to send a very clear, unspoken message. I respect this court, but don't mess with me. It was just a brilliant, calculated show of strength. So the trial gets going, but it becomes pretty obvious pretty fast that the people with the real power in the situation, well, they aren't even in the courtroom. Herod's fate wasn't going to be decided by King Hyrcanus or the Sanhedrin. Nope, it was going to be decided by a much, much greater power. Hyrcanus might have been sitting in the judge's seat, but his authority, it was all an illusion. The real strings were being pulled hundreds of miles away in Syria by the Roman president Sextus Caesar, who, by the way, was a relative of Julius Caesar himself. And Herod, being a smart guy, had already made sure he was on Sextus's good side. And this is the moment that shows you where the true power really was. Sextus Caesar didn't see Herod as a criminal. He saw him as a useful, effective Roman asset. He was not about to let some local court get rid of a guy this capable. So he sends a direct, unmistakable order to King Hyrcanus. The message was simple. This trial is over. So what's Hyrcanus going to do? He's caught between his own angry court and a direct order from Rome. He folded. Of course he folded. He acquitted Herod. Josephus tells us he was motivated by the Roman threat, but also by some lingering personal affection he had for the young governor. Either way, the trial was a total sham. So this whole thing, which was designed to humiliate Herod and cut him down to size, it had the exact opposite effect. It just exposed the king as totally powerless and showed everyone in Judea who was really in charge. Herod didn't just walk away a free man. He walked away with his reputation and influence massively boosted. From being humbled, Herod was furious. He leaves Jerusalem and goes straight to his Roman patron in Damascus. And what happens when he gets there? He gets a promotion. Sextus Caesar makes him a general, giving him command of a real army. So now he's not just a governor anymore, he's a major military power in the region, with the full backing of Rome. And here's the ultimate irony in all this. In their attempt to knock Herod down a peg, Hyrcanus and his court accidentally engineered his rise to power. They forced him to play his cards, to call on his powerful friends, and in doing so, they made him more formidable than the king himself. The story doesn't end with some big, dramatic battle. It ends with this chilling image. King Hyrcanus, finally getting the full picture of his mistake, is just sitting in his palace, completely terrified. He knows he's been outplayed, and now all he can do is wait for the man he failed to condemn to march back with an army and take his throne. This episode from Josephus isn't just some dusty old history. It's a timeless story, really, about ambition, about power, and about that messy relationship between local laws and imperial might. And it leaves us with a really big question to chew on. When the laws of a nation go head-to-head with the interests of an empire, what does justice even mean anymore?